So apparently there's going to be an upcoming interview with the co-founder of Jasmy, and it's actually going to be on May 19th. It's on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. local time. It says that, which I'm assuming is the time in Tokyo, Japan, because Jasmy, of course, we take a look at its roots in regard to starting in Japan. And by the way, the interview is going to be on YouTube. It's apparently going to be a live stream, so yeah, I think that is pretty cool. But before I get into this, I first want to clarify nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But why could this interview even matter in the first place? Because we do know that the co-founder of Jasmy is someone by the name of Kunitake Ando, right? And he doesn't do very many interviews. And the thing is, Jasmy, just as a project overall, it doesn't do many updates, right? They don't update that much actually in terms of socially, right? In terms of on social media and stuff like that, they don't really post much. Now, we get some posts here and there when it comes to the CFO of Jasmy, but mostly he keeps talking about Junction, which is, of course, a layer two. It's an incubation project under Jasmy. But I'm just saying, Jasmy in and of itself doesn't get very many updates that often. So when I take a look at that right there, I think it could matter, right? In a sense where maybe Kunitake Ando, which again is the co-founder of Jasmy, maybe he might drop some partnerships in terms of an announcement. Who knows? I mean, I have no idea as of right now, but I'm just saying. He just doesn't do very many interviews to begin with. Jasmy, the project that he co-founded, also doesn't do that many updates to begin with. So this is kind of like a rare sighting, in my opinion, right? It's kind of like very rare we see this. So I think it could matter. But of course, that's going to be on May 19th. And again, I'm assuming that's May 19th in Japan. So yeah, I think this is pretty cool. However, keep in mind, right? Someone by the name of Neo, they did make a post saying how after attending Kunitake Ando's session with Kazumasa Sato, and Kazumasa Sato, by the way, is someone in the Jasmy team, but besides that, he suggested to Mr. Kimura Katsuhiko that he organize an interview with Jasmy's co-founder, Kunitake Ando. But within this post, he refers to Kunitake Ando as dad. Now, the reason why that is the case is because again, Kunitake Ando, he's the co-founder of Jasmy, so many people in the community, when it comes to Jasmy, they call him like the father of Jasmy. They call him like dad, basically, like daddy, right? But the thing is, when it comes to that, again, that's why he referred to him as that. So yeah, when I first saw this post, a lot of people were asking me, why was he referred to as Jasmy's dad? Well, it's because, again, he is the co-founder of Jasmy. So people in the community, they just kind of, call him that. It's kind of like this, for instance. Historically, we do see Jasmy, in terms of the community, give the project and many people on its team like nicknames, basically. Here's another example. A lot of people call Jasmy the Bitcoin of Japan, which it really isn't Bitcoin, of course, but they just refer to it as that because of Jasmy's legal compliance in Japan, which a lot of people thought was very difficult for it to achieve. So then, people call it, oh, it's the Bitcoin of Japan, even though it really isn't, but that's just the nickname. So yeah, when it comes to Jasmy, some of the, I guess, linguistics, right? Some of the language that is used when it comes to this, sometimes people wonder, okay, why is it called that? Why is it this? Why is it that? But, I tried to explain a little bit some of that Jasmy vocabulary, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, besides that point, though, again, I think it could be pretty impressive because you know what? They titled this interview actually The Heart and Mind of Kunitake Ando. Pretty impressive. Keep in mind, Kunitake Ando has had a lot of experience at Sony. Keep in mind, right, he worked at Sony for a very long time. As a matter of fact, he's actually the former president of Sony. So we got to think about that. Sony is really massive. If someone's heard about PlayStation, Sony, right? Sony, they make TVs, right? I haven't seen anyone use a Sony TV in a very long time, by the way. But also on top of that, Sony phones, that one is very rare. I haven't seen that like in a very long time either. I don't know when was the last time I saw someone use a Sony phone. But yeah, besides that point though, Sony just, in a sense, it's very popular, right? Take a look at the Walkman. Remember the Walkman, if anyone does? But yeah, besides that point, when I just take a look at Kunitake Endo, Kazumasa Sato, and as well as Hara, which is the CFO of Jasmy, these people have a lot of experience outside of Jasmy already prior to, even joining Jasmy, right? Prior to even caring about this in the first place. So when I take a look at, let's say in the case of Jasmy, I like their team. Basically, that's the way I take a look at it. Now, granted, people like to say, but Jasmy is still quite low. They like to say that, which is true. It's actually currently ranked 126 in the world as of right now in terms of market cap, which, it's like kind of disappointing, sometimes people like to say. I kind of agree with that to a certain extent, but actually the recovery in the past month has been almost 12%. Still not the best, but not that bad in my opinion, personally, just considering how low Jasmy has been for quite a while. And also, on top of that, if I take a look at it, Jasmy's narrative as a project, I don't feel like is necessarily outdated because Jasmy is focused on data storage. The thing is this, I feel like it's a more evergreen sort of niche, right? I mean, people cared about data storage 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they still care about it as of right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if they cared about it 20 or 30 years later down the line. So, unlike some other projects out there that are focused on a niche that feels very trendy and very cool, which is fine for the time being if that is cool and that is trendy, but there's kind of no longevity sometimes because what happens if it no longer becomes cool? What happens if it no longer becomes trendy? Then the project becomes outdated. What happens if the project becomes outdated? Then people just don't care about it anymore and it becomes kind of irrelevant. So that's why when I take a look at Jasmy, I think the market that it's focused on, I find it very unique and I find it actually very sustainable in a sense where it's not something that often goes out of style that easily, in my opinion. And actually, if we do some basic math, Jasmy currently is around 7 times, and again, I repeat, around 7 times lower than where it was back in December of 2024 at one point. 7 times lower? Like, what the? The thing is this, it's actually even over 3 times lower than where it once was in August of 2025 at one point as well. Do I think August of 2025 was a good time for altcoins? Not really, right? Like, it wasn't even considered an altcoin season by any stretch. But Jasmy, going back to that, it's already like over 3 times lower. Like, again, what the? Bitcoin is not over 3 times lower than where it once was in August of 2025. But that's just my mindset. But I'll still wait. I mean, Jasmy's an altcoin. Bitcoin has just only recovered to around 80 grand. Maybe I might have to wait for quite a while. Maybe not. I don't know. Because I can't control the market. But I'll still be waiting. But in the meantime, of course, I'll still make updates when it comes to Jasmy. Anything that comes out, of course, I'll be sure to make a video on that. However, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.